There are many things you have to learn, know, and do in order to have a successful online handmade business. Today, I want to share with you 5 of these things, 5 essential things that you must know and understand in order to succeed with an online handmade business. G'day, if you don't know me, my name is Jess Van Den. I have been selling my ethical sterling silver jewelry online since 2008 under the label Ethereal. I started as a hobby, and in 2010 I went full-time as a self-employed maker and teacher, helping other makers just like you work out how to turn your handmade hobby into a thriving and profitable business via my blog, podcast, YouTube channel, Create and Thrive. I also have a membership community for makers, the Thriver Circle. So I have a lot of experience, not only with my own handmade business, but working with thousands of other makers and seeing them all go through the same journey from having something they like to make and then deciding they want to sell it to the point of having a successful business. Let's start with number 1, the most crucial thing of all, and that is create something that people actually want to buy. Now, this can be uncomfortable because it requires you to take a step back from your creations and try to look at them a little bit objectively from the perspective of a customer, somebody who's willing to pay money to buy this thing. And this is really difficult because we are emotionally connected and invested in the things that we make. We make them because we love to make them, and chances are we love the finished product. But is there a market for this finished product? Is this something that people want to buy? And one way to do this is to go see what's already out there. So hop on Etsy or even on just Google and look for this thing that you have made and see if there are other people out there successfully selling this product. If there are, then that's a good thing because it shows that there's actually a market for this product. If there's not, well, either it's not something people want to buy, or you've discovered something brand new and exciting and you might be the trailblazer in this area. Now, secondary, or maybe not so secondary to this, is the question, are people willing to pay what you need them to pay for this item? And this is probably where it gets more difficult, and this is probably an area where more of you will come up against an issue, and that is because you might be taking, say, 10 hours to make this lovely product, but there's no way in the world that people are going to pay thousands of dollars for it, and that is what perhaps they would need to pay in order to make it profitable. So you need to decide whether the products you are currently making are actually going to be viable when you decide to sell them. Can you make them at a price that is, for you, materials, time, overheads, can you make them at a price that is good enough to make your profit? Now, we'll get more onto this later in the video, but I just want to put that in your head now, is that is a problem that a lot of people come up against when they start out deciding what to sell. The second thing you must have is beautiful photos. This is absolutely non-negotiable these days because the quality of everybody's photos is so high that you need to have excellent photos in order to compete and in order to stand out from the crowd. So if you don't already know how to take beautiful photos, I promise you can learn, and you can do it just using your smartphone. You don't need a fancy camera, because the most important things are actually not the camera. It doesn't matter how good your camera is if you get all of the other fundamentals of taking photos incorrect. Now, why does a photo matter so much? Well, people are increasingly visual. They will scan through the search results. They will look at the images, that first photo, and that is the thing that will convince them to click through and look further at your product. So if that photo is not amazing, then people will just gloss right over it and go click on a competitor's photo. And when it comes through clicking through into the listing and looking at all of your photos and potentially video as well, especially if you're selling somewhere like Etsy that allows you to have a video in your listing, most people don't even really read the description. They don't look at the details. They just look through the photos and go, yep, that looks like what I want, and click the buy button. So that is how vital photos are to succeeding online. So you need to take the time to get excellent photos, whether you learn how to take them or you get someone else to help you take them. This is incredibly important. And this is where I see so many people fall down and fail in the beginning, because they have photos that are simply not up to scratch and they are not making sales and they don't know what's wrong. And it's not their product or anything else. It's simply that their photos are not showing their product off to its best. So just briefly, what makes a good photo? Natural light or diffuse light. It has to be white light. So daylight, not yellowish light. And do not, whatever you do, use the flash. An easy way to do this is to photograph by a window, not with direct sunlight, but with diffuse sunlight. Or you can get a light box or the lights like I'm using here, which are softbox lights, and they are not very expensive to buy, but they'll make a big difference. The next thing is consistent, simple, yet iconic backgrounds. So that means that you want the backgrounds to complement your product, to make your product stand out. And ideally, you might even have a background that is unique to your shop so that when people see a photo on that background, they associate it with your shop. It's absolutely fine to have a white background, although white backgrounds are quite difficult to do well, but it's also a little bit boring. And if you're trying to stand out, it might be worth it to actually come up with a different background that makes things look a bit more interesting, but not too interesting because you do not want to detract or distract from the product, which should be the star of the show. Next, you need to get clear, crisp shots, okay? No blur. Make sure everything is, the product is in focus, not something else in the picture. Like you don't want the background to be in focus, but the product to be blurry. So make sure your product is in clear, crisp focus and is the star of the show. Another thing to consider is enticing or intriguing angles. So we all know, that the basic studio shot, straight on, flat on, showing the product, but try taking it from some different angles, seeing if you can get a more interesting and intriguing shot that might capture people's attention. Now, there's lots more that goes into having excellent product photos, and I have a number of videos on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Jess Van Den. If you're interested, you can head on over there and look at the videos I have, including one on how to take excellent product photos with your phone. So you can go check that one out later, but let's move on for now. The next thing is to make reproducible items or very high-end, i.e. expensive, one-of-a-kind items. A problem I see a lot of people have is that they make one-of-a-kind items that are not expensive. In other words, they're like $50 or below. And the fact of the matter is if you're selling online, it is very, very difficult to make a good living selling like this, because not only do you have to make every single product individually, you have to photograph it, you have to edit the photos, you have to do keyword research, you have to write a description, you have to take the time to upload the product, then you have to market that product, and you can only market it once because once it's sold, it's gone. It's a lot of work that takes a lot of time. So if you're selling online, I strongly recommend you come up with a line of reproducible products. This is a product where you make a prototype, you photograph it, do all the other stuff, you put it up, and then you sell that same product over and over again, and you make it each time you sell it. Or some people prefer to have a bank of products pre-made that they can then ship out straight away. This is my business model. All of my jewelry is made to order. It's all reproducible. And that means that I can save a lot of time because I don't have to do all that extra work for every single product, which means I have more profit at the end of the day. Now, as I said, the exception to this is one-of-a-kind products that are worth a lot of money because you are getting enough back for the work you are putting into it. And what does a lot of money mean? Well, it will depend on a lot of factors, like how long it takes to make the product, how much the materials are worth, etc., and therefore how much you can sell it for. So that is something you will have to do when it comes to working out your pricing, which is what we're going to be moving on to now. You must price for profit. Now, this is one of the biggest issues in the maker community, is people underpricing their work and therefore not making a profit and therefore giving up because they simply can't afford to keep doing this business because they're not making enough money. Most of us don't really understand pricing when we start out. We're coming from a hobbyist perspective. We're coming from a place where we've not necessarily perhaps been in business before, and we don't understand everything that should go into pricing or the larger world and how pricing works in the wholesale and retail sector. We also underestimate our own skill level. We're like, oh, well, we can do this. Sure, but your skill is worth something, and that needs to be taken into account when it comes to your pricing. You cannot compete on price. There will always be someone who is able or willing to price less than you. And if you try to compete on lowering your price, You will simply underprice yourself and your business will not be sustainable. You need to do the hard work to work out what your product needs to be sold for, and you need to sell it in a place where you can get that money for it. This can be difficult for a lot of people, really, really difficult. And I totally understand. I've been there myself, but it must be done in order to make a profitable business long term. Now, if you need help doing this, I have a video on my YouTube channel that is a handmade pricing formula. And in there, I break down the two parts to the pricing formula, the wholesale price and the retail price. And I explain exactly why you should be selling your stuff for retail price online. And it might just blow your mind, the reason why. So you can watch that one again later on my YouTube. Okay, so the last point I want to leave you with today is something a little bit less concrete, but no less important. And that is, you need to believe fiercely in yourself and your work, but also be open to change, growth, and development. If you don't believe in yourself, how is anybody else going to believe in you or your products? You need to keep that passion and that fire alive, and you need to know that you are worthy and that your products are worthy, because if you don't believe that, you will never succeed. It takes so much time, effort, and dedication to create a successful business, and you can't be in it halfway. You have to be willing to put in the work, and you have to believe your work is worthy of the price you're putting on it and that people are going to value it. You need to make something that you love and are proud of, and that you are convinced that other people will love as well. Absolutely put your heart and soul and your passion into everything you make and love it fiercely. But you also need to be willing to be flexible and open to change so that your business can be successful. If you're working really hard for years and years and nothing seems to be working, it might be because something needs to change, and you need to be willing to look into what that might be. It might be your product, it might be your price point, it might be your photos, it might be your marketing. There's so many different things that have to kind of come together and work in unison in order for your business to be successful. And so you need to be willing to learn and develop every single part of that process. This is just part of being a business. It's an evolution, it's an experiment. And if you come at it with that perspective of being open to learning and change and development, you will find it so much more enjoyable. And I have no doubt you'll be more likely to succeed as well. Now, if you would like more help with this, I have a free ebook called 25 Essential Tips for Running a Handmade Business, and that will give you much more information about the things you need to get right in order to be successful with your online handmade business. You can grab that and a bunch of other freebies from my Handmade Business Toolkit at createandthrive.com/start here. And of course, remember I mentioned I've got a couple of follow-up videos on my YouTube channel regarding things I talked about today, and you can find all those over at youtube.com/JessVanDen. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear from you. If you did find this useful, hit me up on Instagram at createandthrive. Let me know you watched this video and that you enjoyed it. Good luck with the success of your handmade business, and bye for now.